Well, I didn't review whatever the last video was, or maybe even the last two, so I'm not quite sure exactly where I'm at in the updates. But here is where I'm at now, and I think there was an issue of cantilevering the saw off, and without the top there was a weight issue, and the fact that it was very tippy wouldn't take much. I think it was literally the weight of a drill on the other end was enough to stabilize it if you didn't push it on the saw. Without the drill, the whole thing actually started to tip. So I think that may be where I was at. So cut the pipes to length, put bolts in either side, so actually the pipes can't go out either end because I don't have a stop block. It would be floating in the middle of nowhere, or I'd have to figure out some way to actually set up a stop block, and there was no need for it. It would just take up more space. Then I'm already losing with the issue of right here, and the fact that it really, that's where you want to put the tools in. I did notice on one of an earlier version of one of the, it might have been the first total station that I saw built, that the rails actually were located very down below. It was a different saw that he was using, but they were located actually down below, almost riding the bottom. And had I seen that video, or remembered I had seen that video, I probably would have done that, but I already had it set up, and I'll just go with this. But what I did do is that right down here, I do have a stop for the pipes, so they can go through that way, because there is no stop. Need these, but I'm not, they're just very, they're tight, but they're not really tight. And so my thought is, if I'm not using the saw, I can actually take these pipes out, have a bench where I have complete access to the inside if it's just being used as a surface alone, and then put the pipes in necessary. I mean, it's a little more complicated, but for what I'm trying to do, it's better than trying to set up a couple of sawhorses, figure out a sheet of plywood to receive anything coming off of this table saw anyway. So I believe this is a workable system. Of course, the surface is now on. I was going to glue and screw the surface, but I figured if I goof up the surface, sacrificial strips and all that, you cut through something, I drill through something. And if I mar up the surface over time, which I hope I don't do, but if I do, I want that surface replaceable. Not that I want to drill the 2,765,327.8 holes. However, if I have to, I should have a template for that. That's one of the next things I'll do here. But I'm thinking that rather than rebuilding the whole thing, the surface is just easier to replace. But if I glue it down, then it's way more problematic to get that off. So I actually started to perimeter glue and was about ready to spread the glue out on part of it, and then realized I don't want it glued down. So I wiped all that up, took a wet rag to it. So there's probably a little glue that is adhered, which will be problematic when I go to take that surface off if necessary. But better than have it full glued. So lots of screws in it, all countersunk, ready to go. I may have to shift those screws one way or the other depending on where the layout is for all of the bench dog holes. But I guess it's the bench dog holes that are next. Get those in, then I'll figure out the router. The router placement pretty much is dictated by the hole down in the bottom half, the bottom side, or just the bottom. But there is flexibility there. I can shift it one way or the other, and if I need to, I can flip this thing over and make that hole just simply bigger. It doesn't matter to me if it's oversized. It's an access point. So I'm all cool with that. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I actually had to set this up because I need to rip some 2x4s down. I need to make some drywall nailers. And so I figured, hey, why not? I've got this set up, about ready to feed some stuff through it. And figured if I hadn't updated since I put the top on, I know, because that was this morning. So there you go. Here's the update. If I get that template built, maybe I'll just quickly show you that, although it's not going to be anything more than you've seen on any other video, really, that uses a template system, but I'll do that. And I decided instead of, well, actually, I have a 7/8 Forstner bit, just got in from Amazon, and that's what I'm going to use on the template. And so when I use the router and the bushing, that'll bring it down to 3/4. So I'll actually be drilling 3/4 holes, so they're technically not 20 millimeter, they're slightly off. I can't remember if it's slightly larger or smaller. I think 20 millimeters might be slightly larger if you do the math than 3/4 of an inch. But either way, I'm going to shoot for 3/4. Everything I'm seeing online, as far as if I wanted to order bench dogs instead of making my own, they're all fitting 3/4. Some even say loosely unfortunately. The complaints are, hey, this is a little too loose in a 3/4 hole. Because you can always make your holes bigger, but you can't make them smaller. And you can always take a bench dog and you can thin it to some degree, depending on what it's made of, as opposed to trying to, you know, make everything grow. That's a little more problematic. So that's what I've got. So I'll eventually shoot for the 3/4 hole with the router on that template. And I should be rocking and rolling. This thing is heavy. I was actually very surprised when I put the top on how much heavier it was. And as I know plywood and I know heavy, but I was just surprised at that. And it's a little awkward actually to grab onto. For me, I'm not gargantuan. I don't have a huge span that I can grab. So it's a little bit. I'm hoping you remove those 2 million holes, and that that's going to be hopefully it's not going to be half the mass, but it's going to be something. And plus it'll provide a lot of finger grabs when you're lifting it up, and it may be less awkward to actually sit down on the sawhorses. But anyway, so far loving it. Haven't really used it yet, other than in its assembly, but I'm loving it, using it. So I'll let you know when the template's ready and all the holes. So thanks.